Okay, so how to do it all. If you followed me on social media, you know it's a little bit counterculture to what I usually preach. Normally it's balance and rest, but the reality is, I think we all have periods in our life when we just have too much on. And we have to figure out a way to get through it all and survive. So sometimes we do have to just do it all. And I want to give you my top tips for not only surviving periods of your life like this, but thriving, finding ways to thrive too, so that it doesn't just feel like so much of a struggle. And the idea of this, how to do it all, has come out of my experience of doing my full-time teaching job, teaching chemistry in a secondary school, and building my business on the side. And most people, when they ask me about this, usually respond when I tell them about it is, oh, I don't know how you do it all. I don't know how you fit it all in. And the truth is, I do have a very good answer for this, but it's not going to sound overly comfortable to most people. The reality is, when we remove the limits of what we believe to be possible, actually, we can serve and contribute and achieve so much more than we initially believe. So it's hard, but it is possible. And this is how I get through it. Hopefully, it will help you get through the tough times in your life too. Get comfy, grab a pen. Top tip number one is protect the valuable. Protect the valuable. And what that means is that there are absolute non-negotiables in my life that are about protecting my health. Because if my body breaks down, then I break down. Sleep, movement, and nutritious food must happen, and therefore they get prioritized and protected. So for example, no matter how busy I am, 10, 20, 30 minutes of movement is happening. To do what I need to do, I need a strong, resilient, dependable body. And that comes from looking after it, and that means movement. So nothing fancy. I don't follow any sort of specific program. And this also has to happen first thing in the morning because that reflects the priority in my life and before the rest of the day and its demands creep in. Nutritious food is another. So I take time each Sunday to food prep, and I mean all 5 days of breakfasts, lunches and dinners. And no, it's not boring. I make big batches of granola or overnight oats for breakfast and then just add fresh or frozen fruit daily. I roast massive trays of veggies and then just add protein for lunch. And to be frank, dinner is often a mixture of either a big batch food made by me or a pre-prepared meal that I just add extra veggies and or protein to. And I do recognise that coaching nutrition does give me like this foundation of tools and knowledge to draw upon. It helps keep me aware of balance, the fibre, the protein, the fruit and veggies, salt, etc. They're all thought about. And as part of this, I think how to do it all means making sure that I have available some yummy treats. Because it's important that food isn't just fuel. In such a busy life, it also needs to be a source of joy and satisfaction. And one of my favourites is a protein cookie. You can look back at a previous video or on my blog post for the recipe for a protein cookie. Next, protect the valuable, sleep. This is one component that I do find a little bit harder to manage. Many of you will resonate the idea of like burning the candle at both ends. So weekdays, I sleep on my own, screens get cut off, and then I have a bedtime routine that literally does not change. I journal, sometimes a little bit of reading, and I do a tapping meditation, and then I listen to a Headspace sleepcast. Literally never fails. And before I did that, the racing mind, being able to switch off, was pretty difficult. So get a really solid bedtime routine, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it makes all the difference. So if you want insane energy levels that sustain you through a crazy, hectic, pushing you to the limit schedule, then you have to keep your basic biology working for you. A fit, healthy frame gives you the stamina to keep going. And it's weird because I often see self-care as the first item to go as a busy life, when in reality, this should be the last thing that wants to go. And finally, in Protect the Valuable, relationships. Connection is so vitally important as humans. And when you go through a crazy period in your life, you do find out who your true supporters are often. And for me, it's my husband. So spending time with him takes top priority over everyone else. The connection we share is vital to be able to keep going. And as I think this last year and a half has shown us, when we isolate, we can break down under the weight of what we're carrying. So if your crazy period of life is relatively short, then a little bit of honest communication with the people around you can ultimately help them support you and understand what's going on. If that period of time is a bit longer, then maybe some of those last strong relationships do fade out of your life. If you're raising a child or going after a certain career path, there's definitely grief and sadness when you let go some of these less strong relationships, but it's about priorities. Who are the top people or person in your life? And therefore the time and energy that you do have for relationships needs to go in that direction. As much as it would be nice to spend time with all of your friends and your work colleagues and your extended family, it's often not possible. So figure out who is that personal people for you and focus there. Okay, number 2, and how to do it all. Boundaries, routines, systems, and habits. Yeah, routines are sexy. And the reason why they work and why they're so important at this period is that they automate things. And that leaves you with the energy and the focus for your top priority. For me, that's for my one-to-one clients. It's having the energy, the capacity to serve them as much. And quite often that can also mean plan. In a season of doing too much, it's important to not reinvent the wheel. It's setting a system in place and then letting it do a job. Like literally, it's not a coincidence that my business is called The Plan. Plans can be flexible and fluid, but ultimately they remove the mental effort out of a lot. And when decision fatigue is real, stress levels are high, it helps to have the go-to meal, the workout formats for my classes, the small restful habits that I know wind me down. Number 3, and before I give you this top tip, like and subscribe to this video, this channel, and head to the description section. Click on the link there and sign up for one of my free getting started guides so that I can help you on your own journey. Tip number 3, simplify and do just enough. Embrace this idea of essentialism where you focus on just the needle movers. And anything else is not essential, pretty much shelve it, ignore it. You have to let go of the idea of being perfect and embrace the idea that in this season of life, showing up is enough. Do the minimum possible to keep afloat. And for me, again, I'm pretty clear on what this just enough looks like. It means prioritizing my one-to-one clients. They come first in my planning, admin, headspace, and energy. And it's not that nothing else is important. That's not what essentialism means. It's just that showing up is enough. You can't be the best that you can possibly be in everything all at once and keep going. Your enough is enough. Showing up is powerful. Do not underestimate that. You don't need to strain every nerve to be anything more than there. And sometimes this can also mean narrowing your focus to just the next 10 minutes or 1 hour. The contemplation of like the entire day or week or month that we have to get through can be really overwhelming, but we can all focus on what it takes to get through just the next 10 minutes. This might look like getting the children dressed and fed. It might look like sitting down to feed yourself for a couple of minutes or taking a shower. believe me when I say that that is truly enough. When your time and energy potentially opens back up again, that's the time to consider the projects put on the back burner, the hobbies abandoned, and the 10,000 messages in your inbox. But trying to be perfect in everything will break you. So don't. Do just enough. And the next top tip, this is so important, is deal with the stress. Deal with the stress. So to keep going, you need to deal with the stress daily. Even if you can't deal with or remove the things stressing you out in your life, there needs to be practices in your life that help you release the tension and the stress from your mind and body. Daily, multiple times a day. And the reason why I say this is that a lot of our stresses in our life aren't physical. So our body can have a really hard job of figuring out when it's safe, hence the being stuck in survival mode and the inability to switch off. An anxious body feeds an anxious mind, and so on until we're stuck in this vicious cycle of high functioning anxiety day in, day out. And it feels awful. So if we don't deal with the stress, if we just hold it within us, when we get to the end of our busy period, then we can collapse physically, mentally, into illness, burnout, and pain. So how do we deal with the stress? Any sort of movement. Any sort of movement will help your body release some tension. And this can be as simple as a few stretches. It doesn't need to be you finding a time for a workout. One of my personal favourites is just walking it off for a few minutes up and down the room. My husband says I look a bit mental, but just striding up and down the room or a good old dance or shake is really effective at helping your body release some tension. And for your mind, some ways to protect your mind might look like clear boundaries around work and routines around sleep. And that doesn't need to be super strict and perfect. We're talking about tiny moments to pause and remembering to breathe. Maybe a reminder on your phone could prompt you to take 1 or 5 deep breaths. So mindfulness, however that looks like for you, means taking time to slow down, even for a fraction of a second, and feel. Noticing, coming back into your body, observing your thoughts and feelings without becoming entangled. And I'm saying all of this from a place of experience. So I've dealt with a stressful lifestyle for nearly a decade now, thanks teaching. And I've experienced life when I didn't deal with the stress, when I didn't have these practices enmeshed in my life. And my experience was entirely different. So different. I had more physical symptoms of stress and so much more suffering in my mind. So all of these top tips have come from experience. Take mini power downs and take mini planned stops. If you don't, then your body will force you to at some point. And finally, the most important one, have an exit plan. Living in survival mode feels shit. In these periods of high stress, high productivity, then there are things lacking. There's joy, there's space to breathe and really connect with people, and you can't keep ignoring these forever. There will be a toll on your mind and your body, on your nervous system, and you need an exit plan. Carefully planned and defended. Because otherwise it'll just wait until next month, after this next deadline, when I get this promotion, until next weekend, which never comes. Never comes. So my idea currently is when I leave teaching, I'm going to set aside like 7 to 14 days to truly stop. And I'm not being naive and thinking that like 2 weeks is going to fix the effects of a lifestyle of 9 years. It's going to take many months of recovery for your mind, your body, and your nervous system to reset and come back into balance. And I also anticipate that this transition period is going to be difficult. If you've had a period of high intensity, the low intensity can feel hard. Because when we stay busy, it can help us numb emotions. We stay too busy to feel. So when we stop, pain, the high and low points of life, sadness and joy, it can feel very overwhelming. In fact, with a nervous system that's quite highly strung and geared to help see you through a stressful day and get you through some tough stuff, slowing down can feel like a bit of a threat. It can feel unsafe even. So I'd say anticipate this, plan for it, plan for kindness and nourishing yourself. Set a time aside when you can truly stop and do less. So this might mean some tough decisions. It might mean saying no to some good opportunities or something fun. It might be stopping doing something that you want to do. But remember, if you don't do this, somehow, sooner or later, you will be forced to. So do it on your own terms. Plan how to slow down and stop. It might look like gathering the support around you that you need for this transition time. It might mean making a list of relaxing and restful activities or hobbies that can bring you joy and deep relaxation and connection without fidgeting around in frustration because you're trying to relax but you have nothing to do. So remember, final message, we can always pretty much do more than we think. Humans are capable of incredible acts of stamina and strength. We can defy logic and science and expectations. But know that when we take on too much, we must also take on too little. Seasons of high intensity must be followed by seasons of low intensity. We must balance doing with being. I hope you found some really useful takeaways from this, and I'd love to hear what you found most useful, or about your experience of doing too much and how you coped. Head to the comment section and let me know.